15 grounds of deportability. How does somebody find themselves into removal proceedings in order for the judge to determine whether they're deportable or not? In this video, I'll talk about 15 grounds. Okay, let's get right into it. Bijoux Ngwanda here, immigration lawyer, the DC metropolitan area. If you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're not new, welcome back. Thank you for subscribing, and please don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. If you enjoy the content, please go ahead, like, share, and don't forget to comment below. Let's get right into it. Number one, inadmissible at the time of entry or adjustment of status. Remember, when you try to adjust status and the case get denied, they will send you a letter, and on that letter they will say, unfortunately, we cannot adjust your status based on this and this. And if you really read on the letter, the decision letter from USCIS, it will say that you only have 33 days to leave the country because your status that you maybe the benefit that you was eligible, or the benefit that you were trying to get has been terminated. The one that you got or you were trying to get, you cannot get it. Therefore, you should leave the country. So that's number one. Inadmissible at time of entry or adjustment of status. Okay. The second ground, present in violation of law. You're here in the US and you violated any law, you can be subject to deportation. Just make sure that if you're on the American soil, basically do your best not to violate any law. Number three, non-immigrant status violators. So people who violate the non-immigrant status. For example, students with F1 visa, they have certain terms of their visa that they have to really abide by. For example, if you're a student, you cannot just withdraw from the program and just stay home without studying. That's a violation. You can't just go from private school to public school, especially if you got here for the private school. You can't just transfer like that. It's a violation. You can't work when you don't have you cannot work when you don't have the work authorization, and sometimes the work authorization has a lot of conditions attached to it. Those are the things that you really have to pay attention to, otherwise you'll be in violation of your non-immigrant status, and that could lead to deportation. Okay. Number four, conditional permanent residency termination. So that comes more with marriage, green card based marriage. You remember sometimes they will give you 2 years, okay, conditional residence. And within that 2 years, you have to go back to the interview in order to validate that marriage so that they can give you a 10 years. And sometimes it doesn't work, and then it results in the termination of that conditional residence status. Okay, at that point, really you become subject to deportation. It's another ground of deportation. Number five, crime involving moral turpitude. Okay, the crime must be within 5 years of admission, and the sentence has to be 1 year or longer. So that's basically the difference between the crime involving multiple turpitude in the last video that I made. So in this one, the crime must be within 5 years of admission, and the sentence has to be 1 year or longer. Number six, if you have multiple convictions, you can be subject to deportation. Number seven, aggravated felonies. What that include murder, sexual abuse to children, money laundering, burglary, violence, fraud, anything involving deceit. You can be subject to deportation. Number eight, controlled substances, or when we talk about marijuana. The only exception here compared to the ground of admissibility, here we're talking about the exception is that if it's just a single offense involving possession of for one use, you're the one using it, and you're only using 30 grams or less of marijuana, okay, that you will be like forgiven, but it has to be a single offense. Number 9, firearm offenses, whether you're buying, selling without authorization. So basically anything that has to do with firearm violations can be subject to deportation. Number 10, domestic violence, child abuse, or stalking. So basically you don't, if in this one come into play when somebody marries a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident and they start abusing that person, instead of it being the other way, it's another way around. So you start abusing that U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident with domestic violence, child abuse, or anything, or stalking them, stuff like that, you can be subject to deportation. Number 11, violation of protection order. That's just not any protection order. It has to be against credible threat, violence, repeated harassment, bodily injury. So basically those are the violations. If they give a protection order and you violate a protection order against those that I just cited, you can be subject to deportation. Number 12 is false claiming of U.S. citizenship. This is so serious. I'm going to reiterate on it again. This is so serious. If you forgot to check where, remember, employment authorization, when you're filling out that form, just make sure you read it again and again, because when you just click on U.S. citizen and they go ahead and verify that you're not a U.S. citizen, that's an offense. You can be subject to deportation, or you can be subject to inadmissibility. You can adjust status later on. This is something really, it's so serious to the point that to some extent is not waivable. So this is something you have to keep in mind. And then we have number 13, national security ground. On national security ground, you can be subject to deportation. Those are crimes involving terrorism, terrorist activities, treason, anything around those lines that is basically in relation to national security, okay? Then we have number 14, public charge. If you become a public charge within 5 years of you being in the U.S., you can be subject to deportation. Public charge, it was really serious under Trump, but now it's going a little bit unnoticed, but it is something that can result in deportation. So basically a public charge, we know, it's like when you rely too much on public benefit like food stamp, housing, Medicaid, all those public benefits, it can lead even to deportation, and it's subject to inadmissibility as well. So it's something really to keep in mind if you're into those things. Under Trump, it was really in action. Really, Trump was on it, but now it's a lesser. But it's just something to keep in mind. Number 15, the last one, unlawful voting. If you are going around and voting in federal elections, state election, county election, and stuff like that, you have to read their statute to know if you are eligible to vote, because if you're not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, there are certain votes that you cannot do. So if you're doing a vote unlawfully, you can be subject to deportation. Those are the 15 grounds of deportability. Remember yesterday I talked about the ground of inadmissibility. Today's video is about grounds of deportability. It means that you're already here, but something happened and you can find yourself into removal proceeding, and after that they can remove you. but we know that we have a lot of 11 million undocumented individuals. Sometimes it's practical. It's not feasible for them to just remove or deport 11 million individuals because logistically it just cannot happen right away. That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't mean that you just go ahead and start committing those offenses or committing those crimes. It doesn't excuse that. Okay, you just be careful. Don't do what you're not supposed to do. If it doesn't apply to you, please go ahead and share this video with your friends, family, neighbors, enemies, everybody, so we can help somebody with this video. Okay, don't forget to subscribe. And tomorrow I'll bring solutions, because sometimes when we lay out our problems, we have to come up with solutions, possible solutions. We will talk about those solutions tomorrow. But when we talk about those solutions tomorrow, because I'm just gonna talk about those solutions briefly, if you feel that you're concerned, you have to consider a consultation. The reason being is because we're not gonna go ahead and go into detail with those solutions, because it's case by case basis. We have to go with your facts, specific facts of your case related to the solution, and see if we can come up with a solution in your particular case. And that requires consultation. Again, consultation fees apply. If you're interested, 202-751-2180. You can call the office, or you can email me, email on display. Bijoux Ngwanda here, immigration lawyer, the DC metropolitan area. And this was U.S. Immigration. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.